calling the Pinellas County Clerk and Recorder's Office. Please listen to our menu options as they have recently changed. Press 1 to be transferred to the court clerk regarding any court dates and times. Press 2 to reach the Clerk and Recorder's Office regarding motor vehicle, elections, and recordings. Thank you.
Please stay on the line while your call is transferred to the operator. Clerk and Recorders, how can I help you?
Yes, ma'am. Is Nathan around?
He is. Give me 1 second, okay?
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
This is Nathan. How can I help you?
Yeah, hey, Nathan Ruybal. This is John Masters. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How can I help you today?
I sent you a summons maybe a month or so ago. Did you receive it?
This is who again?
John Masters.
John Masters? Yes, I received it.
Okay, have you followed up on it? Have you responded to it?
No, I've given it to my attorney.
Have you reconsidered about letting me vote?
So the reason why we didn't allow it because you didn't have an accurate, an actual physical address. You had made up an address that didn't exist.
But I lived at that address, so whether or not that address was in the Colorado system, you know, if you read the 14th Amendment, it says you're a citizen of both the country and of the state that you reside in. That's where I was residing, and I'd lived there for.
Which is not a physical address within the county. So I'll reach out to my attorney and then we'll be in contact. Okay.
Well, just I was residing there for a year, so that means I lived there, so therefore I had a right to vote. So no, the answer is no. You're not going to reconsider. We just elected frickin' Trump because of this bullshit. You know that, don't you?
And where are you residing now?
Someplace where I could vote.
All right. Well, you can contact my attorney if you have any other questions.
How do I get my right to vote? If I go right back there, do I have to go through 15 years of crap before you'll eventually accept that I have a right to vote?
You do have a right to vote.
And then how many people?
You came in, you didn't have a physical address that was recognized within the county.
How many people don't have a physical address that live in the county right now that you're allowing there? There's a whole bunch of like trailers and crap that was on your road. So to act like that planning and zoning is catching everybody that comes in, that's not the case.
That was the case in your case. It was the case because you had actually made up an address.
I lived on that road, and there's no box numbers on that road. So if you're just to chop it up into 10 different districts, 10 different portions, then I was at the back end of that portion. So I was giving you an address of what that number should have been. And so just because I didn't get something from the damn state, I resided there. I resided there, man. I lived there. So you messed up, and you're just going to keep doubling down on your error, right? That's what you're telling me. And then what is your, I'll talk to your lawyer. What is your lawyer's number?
I don't have a number for him, but why don't you give me your number and I'll have him reach out to you.
You don't have caller ID?
Let's see. 719 or 775.
Yeah.
335.
Yeah.
5092.
Yes, sir. What is who's your lawyer?
His name is Nick Sarmiento.
Nick Sarmiento. Okay. And you're gonna let him know, and he'll give me a call.
He's currently in conference out of state, but I'm sure we can reach out to you.
Well, if you're not gonna let him know, then just give me his number.
I didn't say that I was not going to let him know. I said he's in conference right now, and we'll discuss this, and we can reach out to you. So, are you living in Colorado now?
Why are you asking that?
Are you living in Conejos?
if I was, would you allow me to vote?
If we can work on a correct address, then absolutely.
If we could work on a correct address, it's not in the system, so you would have to come up with an address.
There's actually no residency allowed in that subdivision that you were living in.
The subdivision that the county sold, the subdivision that the treasurer sold, the county, the property that the treasurer gets money from. Are you kidding me?
Many of those parcels are county owned, but there's several that are privately owned. And none of those, and many of the roads that is going through there is not actually a county road. That road that goes through there are running through people's parcels. And a county cannot have a road that is going through people's private property.
What would it take? Do you know?
They're working on it. As far as working on a road, that's who knows when that or if it may happen.
I'm saying, what would it take to get my vote? What would it take?
Well, it would probably not be able to be at that address that you're claiming that you want to live at, because that's not there's nothing in the system for that particular parcel as far as a physical address.
So you're saying it's not possible? So even if I had $1 million and I pay for every permit that any of your offices could ever come up with, the state comes up with, and whatever I need to pay for, and jump through all the hoops and apply to all the darn things, you're going to tell me there's no way I have a right to vote there? Is that what you're telling me?
That's not what I'm telling you. No.
What are you saying?
I'm telling you that
it's not in the system now, but there's definitely a process to get someone in the system, because if the Constitution says if I reside there, then therefore I have a right to vote there. I'm a citizen there. So you're trying to say something different than the Constitution. But maybe there's some tiny little laws out there that I don't know about. If I go through those hoops, it would seem as though that I've done all my due diligence of everything that should have been done. So if I did all the stuff I needed to do in order to make it a residence, to get the address, then what's that process? What is that process? Do you know it?
Well, it starts with land use. I mean, land use would have to issue an address, a physical address location at that piece of property, which from what I understand, they're not allowing any residencies at that subdivision. They haven't been for many years.
Do you know why?
That's not my department, and because of which is access. Again, that road that runs through that people use to get to even to your piece of property, that runs through many other people's parcels. It's not even a county road. The county road ends there at that right by the cemetery or by that head gate, somewhere around there. Beyond that, it runs through people's property. There's no actual physical county road that runs through that. People believe that it's a county road, but it's not.
Okay, I see. You're saying, let's see, what was it, County Road 9 or something? So you're saying you don't even own the beginning of that road? So you go back there and you go behind the cemetery, none of that road is yours?
No, it's not.
And then the other road...
It's not a county road.
Well, what about the other road that goes not there by the cemetery, but you go down
on the other side, on D5, and you turn going south?
No, you go up the hill, because they cleared that out. There's bulldozers and there's infrastructure money that was spent on it, so they cleared that out. And
a lot of that is private property as well, and the rest of it is Forest Service. Once you get up to the top or somewhere around there, it turns into Forest Service, and that is obviously it's federal land. That's not county property.
I mean, even if all that's true, if I'm willing to take the chance of beating up my truck and having to drive through a couple of ditches, it's still my land and it's still where I reside. So how would that?
I understand it's your land, and I'm not trying to question that. It's just that we had to put you in when we have a physical address. We have to go into the system and put it in what district what precinct, what district, what fire district, what weed district, what all these different things. And now those parcels do not have any of those listed because they're not allowed to be
Yeah, at the RV
And
park.
you had used that as your physical address, and we had allowed you to vote while you were living there. That was not a problem. The problem was that physical address that you said you want to reside at, which you can live there if you like. I don't really care. But as far as allowing you to vote with that address, I could not allow that.
There's
I understand that.
Well, I mean, even if I understand it, it didn't feel like there was a process. And then you were sending me through land use. Do you know anything of what? Do you have any?
You have to go through that process in order to get a physical address.
Land use. Do you know that Danny Sanchez and Ann Kelly don't recognize land use laws as being important enough laws to go after people?
That doesn't really.
Why wouldn't that matter? That's the head prosecutor and the head judge. So you're enforcing laws on the books that not even the main law enforcers are enforcing. I also want to point out something else with the courthouse. If you look into the system, I'll go to the post office and the courthouse address isn't in the system. So does that mean if you lived at the courthouse, then you don't have a right to vote? That's absurd. That makes no sense. And then lastly, an affidavit. If the damn address, if the address of the courthouse isn't in the system, does that mean the courthouse don't exist? Does that mean the courthouse isn't allowed to function and be up and going? If the courthouse address isn't in the system, then that means everything you're saying, that means you have no rights, you got no ability to say anything or do anything because it's not in the system, right? You can't punch it in the system and then there's no way. You're not saying that I didn't do things right. You're saying that you're not going to let me vote, and that's the problem. The last thing I'm going to say is that affidavit, you could have said, all right, fill out this affidavit, and then if there's issues later on, you could vote or you can not vote, and then we could ask questions later on. But instead of doing that, I mean, what else was I supposed to do? I know that I have a right to vote. Then that's America's Constitution. According to Colorado's Constitution, nobody, not even the Army, could stop you from voting. But you were able to. So, I mean, great that you're, letting people register to vote. And maybe I could have gone back to that RV park since I was allowed to get mail there. So maybe I could have done something like that. But you weren't willing. You weren't willing to come up with a solution.
You very well could have. And
you weren't willing to come up with a solution. And this isn't the first time that you guys are rude to me. So that's, where I'm coming from.
You come in with that type of attitude.
No, I didn't come up with the attitude. I came in with the attitude to vote. That's a good civic person. Do you really have?
And I wanted to work with you, and that you did not.
You did not want to work with me. You can work with me right now. You can work with me right now. If I was to go to that RV park and got mail for that RV park, then you're saying even when that was a temporary resident, because
Have a good day.
I see exactly.